wrath of abandonment. And it's the wrath of abandonment. You remember the story of Samson? It says he didn't know that God had departed from him. Judges 16:20, he didn't know God had departed from him. Remember, he said, I'll rise up at his other times and get rid of all these Philistines, and he didn't know that the Spirit of the Lord had departed from him? That's the wrath of abandonment. You remember the judgment that God pronounced upon Ephraim, which is another name for Israel? God said this, Ephraim is joined to idols. Do you remember the next line? Leave him alone. You would think God would say, Ephraim is joined to idols, go after him. But he said, Ephraim is joined to idols, leave him alone. In the New Testament, Jesus said to the disciples about the Pharisees, they are blind leaders of the blind, leave them alone. Genesis 6 says, my spirit will not always strive with man. God said to Israel, there's going to come a time when you call on me and I will not hear you. You can call the gods you've been worshiping. Let them hear you. I won't hear you. Proverbs chapter 1, verses 24 to 32, God says, wisdom cries and calls in the streets, and you will not hear, and you will not hear, and you will not hear, and the day will come when you cry, I won't hear either. That's Romans 1. You say, how do you know that? Because he describes it. He introduces the wrath in verse 18, and verse 24, he describes it. Therefore, here's the description of it. God gave them up. Verse 26. For this reason, God gave them up. Verse 28, middle of the verse. God gave them up. That's abandonment. This is the wrath that it's talking about here. Now, this is very important to understand. If you want to understand what's happening in the culture, there comes a point when God gives them up. What a frightening thought. What does that mean? It is the removal of restraining grace. It is the turning over of a culture to the consequences of its own choices. It is sin upon sin upon sin, escalated without divine intervention. Acts 14. God has permitted all the nations of the past to go their own way. It's the story of history. It's the cycle of history. They all go that way, and God steps back. And that's why nations go out of existence. God steps back. It's a form of divine judgment and leaves them to the consequence of their own choices. You ever read The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire? Nobody outside defeated them. They went out of existence in the throes of the consequence of their own iniquities. You know when this is happening. It tells you how you know. Follow the process. Verse 24. First step. God gave them over in the lusts of their hearts to impurity, that their bodies might be dishonored among them. The first step when God gives a nation over is they become preoccupied with immorality. Okay? That's the first step. They become driven by passion and lust and sexual sin, and they dishonor their bodies with each other. The first step that occurs in a nation abandoned by God is sexual immorality. And it's the wrath of abandonment